Hello, Tara Laidlaw here from the Southern Oregon Land Conservancy with today's edition of Outside Everyday with So Real. Today I'm going to show you how to bring in some scale to your nature journaling practice to help incorporate a little bit of math skills, computational thinking, and to encourage some very close observation. You don't need much for this one. Your nature journal or another piece of paper, writing utensil, and then you'll also need some kind of measuring tool. You can look in the toolbox, you can look in the sewing box, maybe you have a ruler hanging around in the house, or you might even find a tiny little ruler in your planner, never know, but any ruler will do the job. So when you're sketching with scale, that helps you understand how things of different sizes on your page compare in the real world. So I looked at this bush right here this morning and I did a couple different sketches, and I'll show these to you right here. So you can see I've got 3 different scales going in these pictures. This one is really zoomed out and I was more focused on the shape of the bush. I was curious about which direction the leaves were facing, but you can see that there's not a lot of detail. This one is super duper zoomed in, and I'm gonna grab the thing that this is a drawing of. It's one of these little guys, and so you can see it's actually super duper tiny, and I've got one right here. And so you can see that comparing something this size to the whole bush on this page doesn't make a lot of sense without a little bit more information. The third thing that I've got on here is a leaf, and I actually traced the leaf. So that's its actual size. So how can we convey that we've got these different scales happening all on one page in such a way that when you look at this, you can understand how these different items compare with each other in the real world? So that's when we get our measuring tool. And I'll start by measuring the height of this bush. And this is going to be an estimation. That's okay. So I don't know, like, it might be a little bit tricky to figure out, but let's say that that's about the top. It's hard because we can't quite get directly to the base of the bush. But that's about the top. That looks like that's at about the bottom, maybe a little bit higher up. So we'll call that 48 inches. See, not an exact science necessarily. And so in my book, what I'll do is I'll make a notation that this is I measured from approximately the base of the plant all the way up to the tops of the leaves, and that was about 48 inches. And so now already we've got a little bit more information so that if I'm looking at this book in a week or a month or a year, I have a better sense for what this is actually representing. Now my teeny tiny little seed thing or pod, I don't even know what this is. So how long is that? Gosh, that's not even 1/4 of an inch. It's like, yeah, it's probably 3/16 of an inch. And so again, I'll come into my book and I measured from the bottom, to the top, 3/16 of an inch. Using inches is a great way to practice fractions also. Not the most intuitive mathematical system, but good for practicing your fractions. And then finally, for this leaf, you can, in order to kind of keep some consistency in your labeling, you can also then measure the length of the leaf and say, okay, so that looks like it's about 2 1/4. And so I'll make a mark, make a notation. This is 2 1/4. And I might say that that one is 2 scale. And so here we have 3 different ways. We have our zooming out, we have our zooming in, we have working at scale. One other way of working at scale is to, instead of taking a sample and tracing in your book, you can also, let's say that I want to draw a picture of one of these little pod things to scale, but without removing it from the bush. I can measure the pods first. And so here this little thing is about 2 3/4 inches long. So then I can go into my book and make a space for my drawing that's the correct size, and then I'll fill my drawing, I'll fill the space with the whole drawing. So what did I say, 2 3/4? So now I know that when I go to draw this thing, if it fills this height, it will be to scale. I'll put 2 3/4 inch to scale. So this is one way that you can start to look at scale in your nature journal. Again, zooming in, zooming out, working at scale. And so I encourage you to give this a try. Even if you don't have a plant outside that's catching your interest, you can even practice this indoors with stuff that you find around the house. So give it a try, see how your scale goes, and use that as a tool as you continue with your nature journaling practice.